Okay, here we go then. The last race of the day, it's all to play for. Race 2, it all comes down to the next 14 laps. And away they go. Now, and there's Darren spinning out as well. Darren, there's contact there, push Kieran wide. Oh, but he's gone off. What's going on? Shane's also there in the BMW. Oh, nearly loses it. Kieran's going to have to slow down. No, he's gone too much. It's Josh here, and he is leading. This is fantastic for Josh. Oh, a bit of a luck tap. And Josh, oh my God, who's going to take it? I think it's Darren. I think it's going to be Rob. Rob gets it. He's actually on the grass. This isn't good for Tom. And he's made the move. Look at that. Through Rouge. Oh, that's Mike. Mike's gone off. Oh, Craig sideways. Big time. Is it going to be enough? No, Sam takes it and takes the title ahead of Tom. Hello and welcome to the final of Season 2 of the FeckWrest Online Touring Car Championship. My name is Tom and we welcome you here at Brands Hatch. You're currently looking at Craig Kellett, who is our Season 2 Drivers Champion after Darren Parker decided to sit out the final. So no one else can catch Craig. He won the title back in Spa on round 9. Let's have a look at the entry list then for this finale and find out who is up for what title and where. Now, the traditional home of the finale for the FeckWrest touring cars here at Brands Hatch GP. It's a 2.4 mile circuit, so the guys will be doing 14 laps around this time. In the entry list, none of the Parker Racing Renault Megans have turned up, so just Elliott and K-Tech will be both full fielded teams. In the independents, Mike, Mark, Gary, Harry and the usual have turned up. And of course James Dawson and Chris Hensby didn't arrive for this particular race. In the title fights then, Craig already the champion for Season 2 ahead of Darren, who is not here to take any points, so Tom can't take the title away from Craig, so Craig has taken the title there. Tom is third but could take second away from Darren, with final being a double points offer. Josh, Mark and Mike can battle it out for 4th, 5th and 6th, with more respective drivers further down that could potentially take higher positions. In the teams then, Elliott's already given the title, as Parker again haven't turned up for Brands. K-Tech could easily take second away from Parker Racing after double points offer, with both Tom and Kieran able to race and gain points. In the independents, it's probably the most focused for the race here. Mark, Josh, Mike and Stephen are all on offer to take the title. Stephen being the outsider, he mathematically could take it, but it's definitely a dark horse potentially for the title. But Mark has got a fairly good lead with 395, Josh on 367 and Mike very, very close behind with 363. And with the double points on offer, it's going to be very, very close as each race goes by. So we will keep you updated on how it all works out. Qualifying was the usual. Of course, Craig took pole. So let's have a look at your first race grid. Here's your grid then for race 1 at the final here at Brands Hatch. Craig Kellett takes his final pole position of the season in his Nissan GTR for Elliott Racing. Up the front then, next to him is second is Stephen Heath in his Subaru WRX. On row 2 we've got Tom Foster in his Subaru WRX of the K-Tech Racing. Rob Pellet is 4th in the Nissan GTR of Elliott Racing. Row 3 is Harry Cook in his Nissan GTR next to another Nissan GTR of Mike Kuipers. Row 4 is Mark Nicol in the Renault Megane next to the Lexus RCF of Gary Black. Row 5 of course is Josh Hardy in his Renault Megane next to Kieran Thomas in his second K-Tech Subaru WRXs, and on the back rider grid on his own is the Mazda Tenza of Joe Burrows. Okay, here we go then. It's the final 3 races. This is race 1 with Craig Kellett, your champion, on the pole position, and away they go, and they all make a fairly decent start. And it all looks fairly clean as they go around the first corner. But that is Kieran in the gravel in the background. But other than that, all fairly straightforward. On board with Mike then. Oh, a bit of a push on the side of Rob's Nissan to get through. And Tom already pushing aggressively to get past Stephen in the foreground there. And Harry made up some ground already from his grid position up to 4th, so this is good for Harry. It's been a slightly frustrating season for Harry, and Harry is hoping to take away at least some good results here after having quite a few technical issues in the past. So at the back here we've got the Mazda of Joe. And Kieran and Josh up ahead. So these guys are on the hard tyres currently. So already this is Craig making some great distance and making a big gap already from the guys behind. And this fight between the two Subarus of Stephen and Tom is continuing on to lap 2 here. And that looks like Mark has gone wide. He's on the grass. And there's a bit of contact there between Mark and Rob, but nothing too drastic. And the two continue on, which is good. So Mark just really needs to stabilise his points over the next 3 races, stay out of trouble, but that's easier said than done. This is Mike, who needs to gain points rather than sit tight, and in order to take the fight to Josh and Mark, Mike needs to really capitalise and score high. On board with Mike, and he's still behind Harry, and very, very similar Nissans, and they're both looking like they're going slightly wide, but they don't. And well executed first corner. Mike is off on the grass, but he manages to regain control. So Tom is up to 2nd now, ahead of Stephen. Stephen runs slightly wide, as you can see, and he's actually on the gravel, and there's contact between Stephen and Harry. So Heathy is losing positions now after really struggling to get the car settled in the first few laps. It didn't look too comfortable really after Tom was putting the pressure on behind, and once he got past, it just got out of his rhythm, and now has let the 2 Nissans ahead. But that's Harry going wide, and Stephen's pushed Mike, and that's Mike into the barrier. So, and I think Harry's off as well. So there's been a fairly big amount of contact there, and no doubt that'll get looked at. I don't think that's anyone's particular fault. I think it all started really with Harry going off. So, but we can have another look at the replay, find out really what happens. Let's have a look now. Let's have a watch of this incident between Harry, who goes off there, see, and then when he's losing control, I think Mike is trying to stay out of his way, and then Heathy just goes straight into the back of Mike and pushes him off. On board with Stephen here, as we watch the 2 Nissans in front. That's where Harry goes off. Mike avoids him, slows down, and that's where the contact there is. And then, there's even more contact. So Harry struggled to stay off the track as well. Lastly, and on board with Harry, there he goes off. Just really struggles to regain the control. There goes Mike, and there is more contact. So this is now promoted. Heathy back up to 3rd, and we've got Mark and Rob fighting up for 4th and 5th. So that's really changed it up a bit up ahead, and what this means for the title. And that's Rob, and Rob spins out just as I was talking about the title. Unfortunately, Rob isn't one of the protagonists, luckily, but it's still not good. Rob, part of the team titles champions Elite Racing, and just loses it there. Let's have another look at the replay as he goes down the outside of Mark here, and there's just a slight nudge. He catches the grass, and that's it. He's spun out. So the ever-changing positions here at Brands Hatch for race 1, as we see Josh Hardy in his slightly evolved livery with the gold stripe. The Endangered Racing squad wanted to take the Renault for a fighting look with gold, and as I say that, that's Mark Nichol. So Mark Nichol is off as well, so it's all kind of changing lap after lap here. So this is bad news for Mark. As I said, he needs to stay out of trouble, and already he's got himself in a bit of a twist there with a spin. So we can have another look and find out what happened with Mark, but in the meantime, let's stay on board with Gary. Let's watch what happened with Mark as he goes off here to the gravel. It looks like Stephen's gone off. Yeah, and he's slightly pushed him wide. So it wasn't Mark's fault necessarily. On board with Mark with this one then. And as you can see, that's where Heathy goes wide. Just a bit of contact as he comes back on. It's a real shame. This has allowed Gary in the Lexus to head up to 7th after a few spins. And when you stay out of trouble when everyone else around you spins, it allows you to gain some real positions. So Josh up to 5th on his hard tyres, with Harry just behind. And now we've got a fight between Mike and Stephen. So Mike has caught back up after being knocked off by Stephen, but it looked like it wasn't Stephen's fault. There was nothing much he could have done. So the laps are counting down quite quickly onto lap 6 as Craig comes round to start another one. And this race here, this battle, looking quite close, and Stephen Heath is defending quite intensely from the Nissan of Mike Kuipers. Again, Mike is looking to take some big points, and he's on the inside of Stephen, but Stephen's just about gets him. Mike has to regain himself. That's Mark again. So Mark is struggling to get himself back on his 2 feet. It's all going down here a little bit between Gary, Mark, Harry and Rob. So battles are happening further down, and there's Josh, who's run very wide. So Josh gets it wrong and slightly hits a barrier, I think. It looked like, just kind of pushed him back onto the track, luckily, and Rob takes a dive in, but thinks better of it. And there's Gary going wide, so Gary's off the grass, onto the grass, and there's a spin. Yeah, that's a big accident. Gary's off onto the gravel and down to nearly the back of the grid here after being hit, what looks like, by Josh. But again, I don't think there was much that Josh could have done from what I could see, but we'll have another look at the replay. So it is all happening here at Brands. There's been offs left, right and centre, even just at race 1. So you'd think that people would be careful to gain their points, but it's coming a little bit chaotic. So Josh down to 8th, Mark goes back up to 7th, Harry up to 6th, Rob is now 5th with Stephen behind Mike now, so Mike has managed to gain that position into 3rd, so onto the podium now for Mike. So amongst all this chaos, it's Mike who's coming out on top so far for the independence battle. Tom is still in 2nd, and to be honest, having a quiet one after managing to gain that position and gap Stephen early on, so staying out of trouble. And of course Craig is leading by some way now, so could take another win. Down further at the back we've got Gary, who spun out earlier on, and Joe has managed to catch up to him, so there's a small battle here for the last position. And trust me, even if it is for the back of the grid, every position counts, so these two will certainly fight it out. Kieran, another one relatively quiet. As much as he's further down the grid on the hard tyres, he's not been involved in a lot of this pack racing. There's Josh, and Josh looks like he's losing control, so Josh up to his usual antics and really struggling to get the grip down on race 1. And that's Rob again, so Rob's off into the gravel. Let's watch from Mark on the back of Harry. Oh, bit of contact there, but I don't know quite what happened with Harry. So Rob pushes Mark slightly wide, and these two now are side by side as they come down the back straight, and it dips down. I'm on board with Mark again. And that's Harry going wide. Oh, contact! And that's Mark really lucky to get away with that, not to go off again. And Kieran and Josh are back together again on the hard tyres after the kerfuffle that Josh has had. So again, Kieran not really in the fight for any title, but he could make a real change of things if he was to stop Josh from taking minimum points, which could be just literally the only points he needs to take the title. Kieran now on the outside, Josh on the inside, and Josh manages to defend well. And there's Rob and Mark, sorry, the other way around. Mark has managed to settle down now behind Rob, and now we've got Mike behind Heathy. So something's happened to Mike. Unfortunately we've not managed to catch it, but Heathy has caught back up, and he's now actually ahead of Mike. So Stephen is ahead, but the Nissan has got on the outside, and he's actually managed to overtake him before the corner. So you can see just the paw of that Nissan just a bit better than the Subarus. So Mike back into 3rd, Stephen down into 4th again. But no doubt that Stephen will want to push back into 3rd again, and he does. A little bit of a tap, but both stay on the track. So it's nice and friendly, this contact, it looks like. And a great race between these two. On to lap 10 of 14. So that's someone off. Just hit the wheels, and that's Rob. So Rob loses control. So I think Rob's hit the gravel and head back onto the track just ahead of Gary. We'll have a look at the replay if we can find it. Let's have a look and watch what happened with Rob with his spin. And he's just ahead of Mark here, and he just gets that first corner wrong, looks like, and he's caught the gravel as we expected onto the grass. Luckily not more aggressive than that, going into the wall. On board with Rob, and that's it. Really lucky not to hit anyone, really. on board with Kieran. So these two have been very, very close the last few laps. And to be honest, Kieran and Josh, oh, a bit of a tap there. Kieran and Josh have been battling for most of the season after their strategies seem to be very, very similar. Whoa, that's Josh has spun out, so it looks like Kieran slowed down. There was a tap by Kieran there, and that's Gary off again. So yeah, you would be forgiven thinking that this was race 3 after seeing the kind of action going on. I'm struggling to keep up with the positions because of so many people going off, and I think almost everyone mid-pack has been off at some point. So Mike has now managed to gap Heathy. Looks a bit more comfortable in that 3rd position. Will he stay, or will he lose it again? And Mark Nicol now comfortably in 5th position, and this will really help his championship title hopes after seeing Josh much further down. But of course Mike gaining a few points more, but nothing too drastic that it's going to put him under pressure for races 2 and 3. Harry settled now as well. Rob, it's a shame. Rob was doing very well mid-pack. He's just lost it on the gravel. And of course now we've got Gary behind Josh. And Gary goes past Josh after Josh leaves the track slightly onto the grass, and that's Josh again, and he is really, really struggling to get back into the flow, and it almost feels like Josh is just not got that car set up correctly for maybe this race. So Gary up to 7th, and Rob to 6th, Mark is 5th, Heafy and Mike 4th and 3rd, Tom 2nd, and of course Craig is going on to lap 13 with a very, very healthy lead. And Craig has been overheard saying that he has obviously enjoyed taking the title, but would like a more of a challenge for season 3 after winning nearly half the races over this season, and it could be more. So this is Joe in 10th, and Joe seems to be struggling after all the offs we've had. He's still quite a way behind, so something's happened to Joe. Not really been there at all. So Kieran on the back of Josh. Oh, a little bit of contact there. Whoa, that nearly loses it in the Subaru. Rob up to 6th still, and Mark still settled in 5th. So it looks like Heathy is back on to the back of Mike here again. So this battle has kind of ebbed and flowed as we've gone through the race. And it's not over yet. So Mike's 3rd podium position is still slightly under threat from Stephen if Mike does not keep his cool. So we're on to the final lap now. Yeah, look at that. Look how close Stephen is now, right on the back of Mike. And Stephen goes wide on the grass. So there's Mark, sorry. Rob. Gary and Josh and Kieran again. And there's Josh. Josh is in the gravel. Josh loses another position, so that could be all important for that final. Look at that. He is all over the place on the grass. Craig Kellett's going to take the win though at the end of that. Look how far ahead he is from anyone else. He's just taking the win, and Tom in second is coming round the final corner just now. So even in second with a very quiet race, and Tom I don't think went off at any point, takes second but miles behind Craig. But a good second for Tom. Third and fourth, look, we thought it might kick off, but Mike takes third, Heathy takes fourth, and I'll maybe probably review that at some point. Mark is going to come away with fifth for race one, so he'll be glad to bag the points. It's a nice safe finish there. He's only lost a few points to Mike, so he can keep an eye on it for race two, and of course doesn't lose any points to Josh. So Rob finishes sixth, Gary seventh, Kieran's going to take eighth, Josh will finish in ninth. Here comes the Mazda of Joe, and as I say, it looks like he's had a bit of a rough time. I wonder if he can pick up the pace for race two and gain some points. So Joe will take 10th. Craig adds to his tally of wins then at the first race of Brands Hatch, just ahead of Tom, who finishes just ahead of Mike in third, and fourth was Stephen. Mark was fifth, Rob was sixth, Gary was seventh, Kieran was eighth, Josh ninth, and Joe was 10th. But of course we didn't see that Harry had a DNF after having some technical issues. What this means then for the drivers' titles, Craig obviously still the winner, but with 487. Darren doesn't score, so 362 with the double points. Tom now up to 341, so not that far away from taking second away. In the mid-pack then, Mike is up to fourth with 300, Mark down to fifth with 294, and Josh down to sixth with 287. And the further down, obviously, respectively, everyone else follows. In the teams, obviously Elliot 835, Parker are now third, so K-Tech already have overtaken and taken second for the team's title with 699. That's obviously not going to change with no cars for Parker, so the teams has been sorted. In the independents, Mark is obviously still leading with 425 after that good finish. Mike gains a bit with 403, and Josh much further down with 389 at the moment, but it obviously could all change. Stephen on 337, still an outsider, but probably not going to be able to mathematically make it now.